So guys, can we talk about what's happening over at Sony right now? It's absolutely surreal. Just last week we found out that Bluepoint and Bend Studio, two heavyweights in the PlayStation Studios lineup, had their projects cancelled. So yeah, two more live service games from Sony have been scrapped. And one of them, a live service game based on God of War. Jesus Christ, if this is a joke, nobody's laughing. And here's the kicker. How did these poor developers find out? Not from their bosses, not from an internal memo, nope. They learned about being fired on social media, just like the rest of us. Can you believe that? Imagine showing up to work, ready to continue your project, only to discover on Twitter that it's been canned. The dysfunction here is staggering. Then comes Jeff Grubb, the journalist, adding salt to the wound, because why not? He reaches out to these developers and finds out that chaos reigns supreme inside Sony. After the disaster that was Concord, you guys remember Concord, the live service game that cost a whopping 400 millions and died after 10 days, Sony has now no clear plan. Developers don't know what to pitch anymore. A couple of years ago, just saying live service was enough to get greenlit. Unlimited budgets, new hires, new work. And now, nobody has a clue what Sony actually wants. But let's rewind a bit. 2 years ago, Sony seemed all in on live service games. Studios would pitch ideas, maybe tied to iconic IPs like God of War, and boom, instant approval. Easy, right? But then came Concord, and it was such a colossal failure that Sony is now paralyzed with fear. They don't know whether to stick with live service games or return to their tried and true single-player experiences. Meanwhile, studios are left in limbo, unable to move forward. It's not just a tough spot, it's a disaster. And what about their public statements then? Well, just a few weeks ago, Sony president Hiroki Totoki announced that the future would be split. 60% live service games, 40% single-player. But how can anyone take that seriously when it's clear that Sony itself has no idea what it is doing? This plan feels like it was set in stone before the Concord fiasco, and now they're just trying to figure out how to avoid sinking further. The real issue is Sony's obsession with chasing their own Fortnite, their own Minecraft, a viral hit that prints money. Only issue is, it doesn't work that way. You cannot just decide to make a viral game. Success requires a huge amount of luck as well. Instead, Sony keeps throwing massive budgets at these gigantic projects, only to watch them fail spectacularly. Concord was doomed from the start, a fundamentally flawed concept that could not be fixed. But here's the thing. Maybe you don't need to spend 400 millions on a game to make it work. Maybe you just need solid foundations, just like what Helldivers 2 did. Maybe focusing on smaller scale projects with innovative ideas, like Helldivers 2 did, could be the key. But no, apparently this is too hard to understand. They keep betting everything on massive, uninspired projects that try to mimic what's already out there. And let's not forget how out of touch they are with their own audience. How many times have fans begged for a Bloodborne remaster? And yet, nothing. Silence. Do they really think players want more generic live service games? Okay, then what's wrong with giving people what they actually want? Use your own IPs, make meaningful games, not knockoff versions of Overwatch. Take Killzone, for example. It has a unique style, it has a unique atmosphere, it would be perfect for a well-executed live service game. But no, they would rather waste money on aimless projects. The truth is, Sony is chasing a market they don't fully understand. They want a piece of the live service pie, but without a clear strategy or understanding of what works. And so, they keep failing. Not all the time, because we still have Helldivers. They just need to stop blindly following trends and double down maybe on what they do best. But hey, here's something else that is driving me crazy. How do they not realize their own audience is changing? PS5 players don't just want big budget games, they want unforgettable experiences. It feels like Sony has forgotten how to create games that truly resonate. And the most frustrating part? They have all the potential in the world. Do you remember Resistance? Or even Killzone itself, that greedy, raw, futuristic vibe that is still unmatched in the FPS genre. It's tailor-made for a great live service game. But no, they keep ignoring the obvious opportunities. Now, I do understand Sony wants to diversify their own offer. They want to break into the live service market and maybe one day they will succeed. But for now, the track record is far from encouraging. Concord was a colossal flop, but it's not the only one. Marathon, the long-awaited project by Bungie, feels like it's still in a limbo. Feels like Sony was so scared with what happened to Concord that they now perceive Marathon as a really risky bet. And my question is here, are they able to learn from their own mistakes? Or do they still want to throw absurd amounts of money at projects with no guarantee of success? My personal opinion is that Sony needs to take a step back and refocus on what they do best. Crafting games with powerful stories, memorable characters, and experiences that stay with players. If they want to explore live service games, they should do it cautiously, one step at a time. Don't just go there expecting to get everything all at once. They bought Bungie expecting to become masters at dealing with live service games. And look at Destiny 2 now. Look at the lack of information about Marathon. Look at the people getting fired. Sony has, well, had an identity, and now they risk losing it, chasing something that does not make sense. Yes, the gaming industry is constantly evolving and maybe Sony is just trying to adapt to an uncertain future. But there are lessons they could learn from their own history and from other companies as well. Look at Nintendo. They focus on games with strong identities, characters, and worlds that stick with players for years. They don't chase trends. They make trends. They follow their vision. Why can't Sony do the same? And then there's the community aspect. Today, games aren't just products, they are shared experiences. Players want to feel like they're part of something bigger, to interact, to create, to contribute. Sony seems to have missed this entirely, treating live service games as nothing more than cash cows. But a successful live service game is not just a game, it's an ecosystem. It's a world where players want to spend their time. So here's the big question. Can Sony find its way back? Can they balance innovation with tradition, giving players what they want without losing sight of the future? Of course, only time will tell, but one thing is for sure, the fans deserve better. The PS5 is an incredible console, but without first-party games that live up to the expectations, it risks becoming a missed opportunity. Sony, wake up.